Admiral Samantha Raine stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, her eyes fixed on the main display. The vast blackness of space stretched before her, punctuated by distant stars. Her weathered hands gripped the command rail as the ship cruised through the disputed border region between human space and Vorex territory. "Status report," she said, her voice carrying the weight of 20 years in the Earth fleet. Lieutenant Peter Walsh looked up from his console. "All systems normal, Admiral. We're maintaining observation distance from the border as ordered." Raine nodded. For 3 weeks, they had patrolled this sector following reports of unusual Vorex movements. The Galactic Confederation Council had dismissed her concerns, calling them speculative and lacking sufficient evidence. But Raine knew the Vorex. In the 50 years since humanity joined the galactic community, no species had caused more diplomatic headaches than these predatory beings. "Admiral," called Communications Officer Diane Foster, her voice tense. "We're picking up distress signals from the Etherian colony on Helios IV." Raine straightened. The Etherians were peaceful researchers who had signed a protection agreement with Earth 5 years ago. "On screen," she ordered. The display flickered to show a planet partially obscured by ships. Vorex warships. Weapons fire rained down on the small colony below. "Magnify," Raine commanded, her jaw tightening. The image zoomed in to reveal Etherian civilians running from their burning structures. Vorex ground troops were already landing. "This is a direct violation of the Earth-Etherian Protection Treaty," said Science Officer Kevin Riley. "The Etherians are completely non-militant. They have no defense systems." Raine's blue eyes narrowed. "Contact Confederation Command. Now." Minutes passed as they waited for a response. The destruction continued on the screen before them. "Command acknowledges our transmission," Foster finally reported. "They're instructing us to maintain observation only and document the incident for a formal complaint to be filed with the Council." A muscle twitched in Raine's cheek. "How many Etherians on that colony?" Riley checked his readings. "Approximately 3,000, Admiral." "And how long before the Council convenes to hear our complaint?" "The next scheduled session is in 14 days, Foster replied quietly. Raine watched as another building collapsed on the screen. "And how many Etherians will be alive by then?" No one answered. They didn't need to. "Weapons status," Raine said. The bridge fell silent. Everyone understood what she was considering. Weapons Officer Maria Garcia hesitated before responding. "All systems operational, Admiral. But our orders." "I know our orders," Raine cut in. "I also know our treaty obligations to the Etherians." Her second-in-command, Commander John Hayes, moved closer. "Admiral, engaging the Vorex would effectively be declaring war without Earth government authorization. The Council will view this as a unilateral human action." "I'm aware of the consequences, Commander." Raine's voice was steady. "But I did not join the fleet to watch civilians die while we take notes for a meeting." She turned to address the entire bridge crew. "I alone will bear responsibility for this decision. Any officer who objects may log their protest officially." No one moved. "Set course for Helios IV," Raine ordered. Battle stations. Warning klaxons sounded throughout the ship as the crew rushed to their positions. The Defiant's engines hummed with increased power. "The Vorex have detected our approach," Foster reported. "They're demanding we withdraw immediately." "No response needed," Raine said. "They understand actions better than words." As the Defiant closed in, 5 Vorex warships broke off from the planet to face them. The odds were heavily against a single Earth vessel. "Target their lead ship's weapons systems," Raine commanded. "Let's give those Etherians a chance." Garcia's fingers flew over her console. Targeting complete. Raine took a deep breath, knowing that the next words would change everything. For her career, for Earth's standing in the Confederation, and possibly for the future of human involvement in galactic politics. "Fire," she said. Bright energy beams lanced out from the Defiant, striking the Vorex flagship with precision. The battle had begun, and with it, effectively, a war. one that Admiral Raine had just declared without permission from anyone but her own conscience. The news of Admiral Raine's actions spread quickly across Earth and throughout the Galactic Confederation. 3 days after the battle at Helios IV, Raine sat alone in her quarters aboard the Defiant as it made its way back to Earth. Her ship had sustained damage, but the Vorax fleet had retreated, and most of the Etherians had survived. She stared at the screen showing news reports from Earth. Some called her a hero who had saved innocent lives. Others labeled her a warmonger who had overstepped her authority. The debate raged across continents. A soft beep announced an incoming message. It was from Fleet Commander Gregory Pierce, her superior and once her mentor. His face appeared on the screen, stern and official. "Admiral Raine," he said, "the Earth Defense Council has reviewed your preliminary report regarding the Helios IV incident." Raine sat straight, maintaining her composure. "Yes, sir. Upon your arrival, you will surrender command of the Defiant and report directly to headquarters. You are to be placed under house arrest pending a formal inquiry." Pierce's voice was cold, but something in his eyes told a different story. "I understand, sir," Raine replied. "Was it worth it, Samantha?" Pierce asked quietly, dropping formality for just a moment. Raine thought of the Etherian families they had managed to evacuate. "Yes, sir, it was." Pierce nodded once before his professional mask returned. "Defiant is to dock at Earth Station Alpha at 800 hours tomorrow." Pierce out. The screen went dark. Raine turned to look out her viewport at the stars streaking by. She had known the consequences when she made her decision. Meanwhile, on Earth, Dr. Olivia Martinez hurried through the corridors of the Xenobiology Institute. As Earth's leading expert on alien species, she had been called to an emergency meeting with government officials. Under her arm, she carried a data pad containing information that few humans had seen. "The council session begins in 6 hours," said Secretary William Nelson as Martinez entered the conference room. "We need to understand what we're facing." Martinez placed her data pad on the table and activated it. Images of Vorax military movements appeared. "The attack on Helios IV wasn't random," she explained. "I've been tracking Vorax activity patterns for months. They've been systematically testing our responses, probing for weaknesses." "Are you suggesting this was a trap for Admiral Raine?" asked another official. "Not specifically for her," Martinez replied, "but for humanity. The Vorax have been eliminating evidence of their aggressive actions throughout the sector. If Raine hadn't intervened, Helios IV would have been wiped out, and the Vorax would have blamed it on a natural disaster." Across the city, Lieutenant Alan Daniels, Raine's loyal second-in-command, met with Zora Ellis, an intelligence officer, in a quiet corner of a public park. "The Admiral is being set up," Daniels said, keeping his voice low. "We need to find proof." Ellis nodded. "I have access to classified Confederation archives. There's a pattern here that goes beyond just the Vorax testing us. Several Council species have been unusually quiet about Vorax movements near their territories. They're afraid," Daniels realized. "But why not speak up? Fear, politics, maybe secret agreements," Ellis suggested. "I need access to the Defiant sensor logs from the past 6 months." "That won't be easy with the Admiral under arrest," Daniels said. In the Confederation Council headquarters on the neutral planet Axiom, Earth's representative Benjamin Carter faced a storm of angry delegates. The circular chamber echoed with accusations as species from across the galaxy demanded human censure. "The humans must be held accountable," shouted the Vorax ambassador, his scaled skin flushing dark red with apparent anger. "This unprovoked attack has cost lives and violated the peace we have maintained for decades." Carter stood firm despite the pressure. "We request time to complete our investigation before the Council takes any action." "Investigation?" scoffed the Vorax. "What is there to investigate? Your military officer declared war without authorization. The facts are clear." Carter glanced at the Tellarian elder who sat quietly observing the proceedings. The ancient species rarely spoke in council meetings, but their wisdom was respected by all. The elder's eyes met Carter's, and there was something there. A warning, perhaps, or encouragement. As the arguments continued, Carter received a private message from Earth. Dr. Martinez had found something important, evidence that might change everything. Lieutenant Alan Daniels had never broken into a secure government facility before. Yet here he was, using access codes from Officer Ellis to enter the data storage center where the Defiance logs were kept. His heart pounded as he moved quickly through the dimly lit corridors. "You have 20 minutes before the security system resets," Ellis's voice said through his earpiece. From her position in the intelligence office across the complex, she was monitoring the security feeds. "I'll be quick," Daniels whispered. He reached the main terminal and inserted the data device Ellis had provided. The screen flickered to life, showing thousands of files from the Defiance 6-month patrol mission. "Look for anything unusual in the days before Helios IV," Ellis suggested, "especially communications that Admiral Raine might not have reported." Daniels worked quickly, copying files that seemed important. He paused when he found an encrypted communication that had been received 3 weeks before the incident. "This is odd. It's marked as coming from Confederation channels, but it doesn't have the usual identification codes." "Copy it," Ellis said. "We'll decrypt it later." Meanwhile, Dr. Martinez was examining tissue samples from a Vorax corpse recovered from Helios IV. The body had been brought back by the Defiant for study. Most humans had never seen a Vorax up close, as the species kept to themselves except in formal diplomatic settings. Martinez noticed something strange in the Vorax's neural tissue. "This doesn't match our existing data," she murmured to herself. The brain structure showed signs of artificial enhancement, technology that went against Confederation treaties about biological modifications for military purposes. She carefully documented her findings and secured the samples. This could be important evidence that the Vorax were not playing by the rules they helped create. Across the city, Admiral Raine sat in her assigned quarters. It was a comfortable apartment, but the security system made it clear she was a prisoner. The door chimed, and she was surprised to see Fleet Commander Pierce enter. "This isn't an official visit," Pierce said, looking uncomfortable. "The cameras are off for the next 10 minutes. Routine maintenance." Raine understood immediately. "Thank you for coming, Greg." Pierce lowered his voice. "The tribunal is set for next week. They're going to make an example of you, Samantha. The pressure from the Confederation is enormous." "I know," she said calmly. "I knew when I gave the order to fire." "Was there something you didn't include in your report?" Pierce asked. "Something that pushed you to act?" Raine considered her words carefully. The Vorax were too prepared, too quick to attack a colony that had little strategic value. It felt like they wanted us to watch them destroy it. Pierce nodded slowly. "I've ordered additional patrols along all borders with Vorax space." Quietly. "So you believe me," Raine said. "I believe something bigger is happening," Pierce replied. "And I don't like being manipulated, whether by the Vorax or by the Council." In the Confederation archives on Axiom, Officer Ellis used her security clearance to access records of previous Vorax conflicts. Most were hundreds of years old, from before the Confederation was formed. She noticed a pattern. Species that opposed the Vorax tended to suffer natural disasters, or internal conflicts, shortly before they were due to present evidence against Vorax activities. Her screen suddenly flashed with an alert. Someone was tracking her database searches. Ellis quickly disconnected, but not before downloading one final file. A classified report about a civilization called the Midorians, who had vanished 50 years ago after accusing the Vorax of treaty violations. On Earth, Representative Carter received Dr. Martinez's preliminary findings while preparing for the next council session. "This changes everything," he said to his aide. "But I need more than just theories to present to the council." "There's something else," his aide said. "The Tellarian representative has requested a private meeting with you. No official record." Carter raised his eyebrows in surprise. The Tellarians were founding members of the Confederation and rarely involved themselves in what they considered younger species disputes. "When?" Carter asked. Now, the aide replied. They're waiting in the secure conference room. Carter straightened his uniform and headed for the door. Whatever the Tellarians wanted to discuss, it might be the key to understanding what was really happening and to saving Admiral Raine from becoming a scapegoat for a war that may have been inevitable. Lieutenant Daniels stared at the screen in front of him, his eyes wide. The file Officer Ellis had found in the Confederation archives was now decoded. It contained proof that the Vorex had destroyed at least 3 civilizations in the past 50 years while maintaining their peaceful image. We need to get this to Representative Carter, Daniels said. Ellis nodded. But we need more. The Vorex will just say these are fake records. They were in Ellis's small apartment, surrounded by data pads and empty coffee cups. They had been working for 3 days straight since the Defiant returned to Earth. What about the Etherian survivors? Daniels suggested. Their testimony would help. Most were taken to medical facilities on Earth's moon, Ellis said. But there's one scientist, Kala, who's already recovered. She's being kept at the diplomatic center for questioning. Daniels stood up. We need to talk to her. Across the city, Admiral Raine sat at a long table facing 5 senior officers. Her tribunal had begun. The room was small and plain, with only a Federation flag on the wall. Admiral Samantha Raine, began Admiral Joseph Wright, the head of the tribunal. You are charged with disobeying direct orders and initiating unauthorized military action. How do you plead? Raine sat straight in her chair. I acknowledge my actions, but I do not regret them. Wright frowned. That is not a recognized plea, Admiral. Then record that I acted in accordance with the Earth-Etherian Protection Treaty, which supersedes observation-only orders when lives are at immediate risk. The officers exchanged glances. This was not the apology they had expected. Admiral Raine, Wright continued, do you understand that your actions may have started a war? Raine looked directly at him. I believe the Vorex started this war long before I fired a single shot. I simply refuse to let them hide it any longer. In the diplomatic center, Daniels and Ellis showed their identification to the guards. Ellis's intelligence credentials got them inside, where they found the Etherian scientist Kala. She was tall and slender with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. Lieutenant Daniels, she said when he introduced himself. You were on the ship that saved us. Yes, Daniels replied. We need your help now. Can you tell us exactly what happened before the Vorex attacked your colony? Kala's eyes darkened with memory. They came as traders first. For 3 days, they visited our colony. They asked many questions about our relationship with Earth. Then they left. 2 days later, they returned with warships. Did they make any demands? Ellis asked. Yes, Kala said. They told us to renounce Earth's protection. They said humans were dangerous and would eventually turn on us. When we refused, they opened fire. Daniels and Ellis exchanged looks. This was important. Would you be willing to testify before the Confederation Council? Ellis asked. If it would help the Admiral who saved us, yes, Kala replied. At the same time, Dr. Martinez made a discovery that changed everything. She had been examining data from previous Vorex encounters when she found hidden communications between the Vorex and 3 Council species. These messages revealed secret agreements, promises not to interfere if the Vorex took necessary action against potential threats. She immediately called Representative Carter, who was still on Axiom. The Clarins, the Vox, and the Zenti, she said when Carter answered. They all have secret non-aggression pacts with the Vorex. That's why they're pushing so hard against Raine. They're afraid of being exposed. Carter was shocked. These were 3 of the loudest voices demanding human censure. Can you send me proof? It's on its way, Martins replied. But be careful. The Vorex have spies everywhere. As Carter received the files, he heard a soft knock at his door. When he opened it, he found the Tellarian elder waiting outside. The ancient alien's eyes were filled with concern. We must speak quickly. The Talarian said in a low voice, "You are not safe here." "What do you mean?" Carter asked. "The Vorix know you are gathering evidence. They have agents in your embassy. Trust no one until you hear from your Admiral Pierce." "How do you know about Pierce?" Carter asked, surprised. The Talarian made a gesture like a sad smile. "We have watched and waited too long. My people should have spoken up years ago, when the Vorix first began eliminating smaller species. Now, perhaps with humanity's help, we finally can." Back on Earth, Fleet Commander Pierce stood in his office, looking out at the fleet gathered in orbit. Officially, Admiral Raine was still under house arrest. Unofficially, Pierce had begun preparing Earth's defenses. The reports coming in from multiple sources all pointed to one conclusion: war was coming whether they wanted it or not. The Confederation Council chamber was filled with representatives from over 50 alien species. The curved walls rose high above them, and the air felt tense. Representative Carter stood at the center podium, ready to present the evidence his team had gathered. "Distinguished members of the Council," he began, "I come before you today with information that will change how we view recent events." The Vorix ambassador hissed from his seat. "We are not here to listen to human excuses. We demand justice for unprovoked attacks." Carter remained calm. "What I am about to share concerns not just humanity, but the safety of all Council species." He activated the main display. Images appeared showing Vorix ships attacking various colonies. Documents listing secret agreements between the Vorix and 3 Council members followed. These records show that the Vorix have been systematically eliminating smaller civilizations while maintaining a peaceful public image, Carter explained. They have also formed secret alliances with the Clarins, the Vox, and the Zenti. The chamber erupted in shouts and confusion. The 3 named species representatives leaped to their feet in denial. "These are lies," the Clarin ambassador shouted. "Human fabrications." The Talarian elder stood slowly, causing immediate silence. When the oldest council race spoke, everyone listened. "I can confirm the truth of these documents," the elder said, his voice soft but clear. "The Talarian archive has recorded similar patterns of Vorix aggression for over 200 years. We have remained silent too long out of fear of conflict." The council chamber grew absolutely quiet. The Talarian confirmation changed everything. The Vorix ambassador stood, his scaled skin now pale with anger. "This is a conspiracy against my people. If the Council accepts these false claims, the Vorix Empire will withdraw from the Confederation immediately." Many representatives looked worried. The Vorix controlled important trade routes and resources. Their withdrawal would cause economic problems for many worlds. "And then what?" asked Carter. "Will you attack the next species that disagrees with you? How many more colonies will be destroyed while we debate in this chamber?" On Earth, Admiral Raine was escorted from her tribunal hearing to a secure military facility. She was surprised when Fleet Commander Pierce met her there instead of returning her to house arrest. "What's happening?" she asked as Pierce led her through a security checkpoint. "The situation has changed," Pierce said. "Carter is presenting evidence to the Council right now, but we're getting reports that the Vorix are mobilizing their main fleet." Raine's eyes widened. "They're not waiting for the Council's decision." "No," Pierce agreed. "They know they've been exposed. Now they're switching to their backup plan." They entered a command center where officers worked at consoles displaying fleet movements and defense readiness. "You're putting me back on duty?" Raine asked, surprised. Pierce handed her a datapad. "Officially, you're still under investigation. Unofficially, you're the only one who's fought them and won." Lieutenant Daniels and Officer Ellis arrived at the command center with Kella, the Etherian scientist. When Kella saw Admiral Raine, she approached her immediately. "Admiral," she said, "my people owe you their lives." Raine shook her head. "I only did what was right." "There's something you should know," Kella continued. "The Vorix questioned us specifically about Earth's defenses and response protocols. They were gathering intelligence. This confirmed what they all suspected. The attack on the Etherian colony had been part of a larger plan. "We're receiving an urgent message from Representative Carter," an officer announced. Carter's face appeared on the main screen. He looked concerned. "The council session has fallen into chaos. 3 species have walked out, and the Vorax ambassador has just threatened to withdraw from the Confederation." "What about the evidence?" Pierce asked. "The Tellarians supported us," Carter replied. "That gave us credibility. But many council members are afraid of the economic impact if the Vorax leave." "They should be more afraid of what happens next," Raine said. As if answering her words, alarms began to sound throughout the command center. "Sir," called an officer, "we've detected multiple Vorax warships entering the Proxima system. They're heading for our colony on Proxima IV." Pierce turned to Raine. "It seems they've made their decision. The question is, what will the Council do now?" Raine looked at the tactical display showing the approaching Vorax fleet. "The Council can debate all they want. Those colonists need help now." Pierce nodded. "The Defiant is prepped and ready. Your crew has refused all reassignments. They're waiting for you." President Catherine Brooks of Earth sat at the head of the emergency meeting table. Military and civilian leaders filled the room, their faces serious. "The Vorax attack on Proxima IV has begun," said Defense Secretary Ryan Miller. "We have about 6,000 colonists there, mostly scientists and miners." "What defenses do they have?" President Brooks asked. "Minimal," replied Miller. "It's a research colony, not a military base. They have a small security force and basic shields." "How long until they're overrun?" "Hours, at most," Miller admitted. President Brooks turned to Fleet Commander Pierce. "What forces can we deploy?" "The Defiant can reach them first," Pierce said. "Admiral Raine is already en route. 4 more ships can arrive within 12 hours, but that may be too late." Brooks nodded. "So it's Raine against the Vorax fleet." "Again." "Yes, Madam President," Pierce confirmed, "but this time with our full authorization." Brooks stood and walked to the window overlooking the capital city. "Send a message to the Confederation Council. Tell them Earth is officially taking military action against the Vorax under Article 7 of the Charter, defense of civilian populations against unprovoked attack." Aboard the Defiant, Admiral Raine stood on the bridge as the ship pushed its engines to maximum speed. The crew worked with calm efficiency, but everyone knew they were racing against time. "ETA to Proxima IV," Raine asked. 53 minutes, Admiral," replied Lieutenant Walsh at the helm. Communications Officer Foster looked up from her console. "Admiral, we're receiving distress calls from the colony. The Vorax have begun their ground assault." Raine's jaw tightened. "Any response from other Confederation members?" "Nothing official," Foster said. "But—" She paused, listening to a new transmission. "Admiral, we're picking up ships on an intercept course with the Vorax fleet. They're broadcasting Tellarian identification codes." This was unexpected. The Tellarians had not engaged in military action for over 500 years. "Are you certain?" Raine asked. "Yes, Admiral. 3 Tellarian vessels." Lieutenant Daniels, back at his station on the bridge, added, "Admiral, I'm also detecting 2 ships of Etherian design approaching from the opposite vector." Raine allowed herself a small smile. It seems we're not as alone as the Vorax expected. On the Confederation Council planet Axum, Representative Carter watched as the emergency session descended into chaos. The news of the Vorax attack on a human colony had divided the Council further. Some called for immediate sanctions against the Vorax, while others urged caution. The Vorax ambassador stood in the center of the chamber, his voice loud and defiant. The human colony was harboring weapons that threatened Vorax security. "We acted in self-defense." "That is a lie," Carter responded. "Proxima IV is a scientific research station. It poses no threat to anyone." "Then why did your admiral rush to defend it with a warship?" the Vorax countered. This proves humans have been planning military action all along. Before Carter could respond, the doors to the council chamber opened. A group of representatives from smaller species entered together: the Rigelians, the Canopans, and 4 others. Their spokesperson, a Rigelian, stepped forward. "The Free Worlds Alliance stands with Earth," he announced. "For too long we have feared Vorex reprisal. No more. We have evidence of Vorex attacks on our border colonies that matches Earth's claims." The Vorex ambassador hissed in anger. "This is a conspiracy." "No," said the Tellarian elder, rising once more. "This is the truth finally being spoken." In Earth's Situation Room, President Brooks received the update with surprise. 7 species have formed an alliance supporting us. "Yes, Madam President," her aide confirmed. "And our intelligence reports that the Vorex are pulling ships from other sectors to reinforce their fleet at Proxima IV." They didn't expect resistance, Brooks realized. They thought we would stand alone. At that moment, the Defiant dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Proxima IV. On the view screen, Admiral Raine could see the colony under attack. 5 Vorex warships orbited the planet, firing on the settlement below. "Battle stations," Raine ordered calmly. "Target the lead Vorex ship's weapon systems." As the crew prepared for combat, new alerts sounded. "Admiral," called Daniels, "the Tellarian and Etherian ships have arrived. They're taking position alongside us." Foster turned from her communication station. "We're receiving a transmission from the Tellarian vessel, Admiral. They say humanity does not stand alone." For the first time since this began, Raine felt real hope. The Vorex had miscalculated. They had expected to fight just one ship, one species. Instead, they had united their victims against them. "Open a channel to our allies," Raine said. "Let's show the Vorex what happens when they pick on the wrong colony." The battle for Proxima IV blazed across the darkness of space. The Defiant moved with surprising speed for a ship its size, dodging Vorex energy beams while returning fire with precision. The Tellarian and Etherian ships followed Admiral Raine's lead, focusing their attacks on the largest Vorex vessel. "Their flagship shields are down to 30%, reported Weapons Officer Garcia. Admiral Raine nodded. "Continue targeting their weapons systems. Lieutenant Daniels, coordinate with our allies. I want synchronized strikes." On the main view screen, a Vorex cruiser broke formation to attack the smallest Etherian ship. The Etherian vessel was quick but outgunned. "Intercept course," Raine ordered immediately. "Protect the Etherian ship." The Defiant swung around, placing itself between the Vorex cruiser and its target. The Defiant's shields flared as they absorbed the attack meant for their ally. "Return fire," Raine commanded. "Full power to forward weapons." The Defiant's energy beams lanced out, striking the Vorex cruiser directly in its engine section. The enemy ship spun out of control, its power systems failing. "Admiral," called Communications Officer Foster, "we're receiving a transmission from Earth. 4 more human ships have entered the system. They'll be here in minutes." A cheer went up from the bridge crew. They just needed to hold on a little longer. On Earth, President Brooks watched the battle through the tactical display in the Situation Room. The information came with a slight delay, but it was clear that the tide was turning. "The Vorex are calling for reinforcements," reported an intelligence officer. "But their nearest battle group is 3 hours away." Secretary Miller leaned forward. "Madam President, now might be our chance to end this quickly. If we can capture the Vorex flagship, we would have valuable intelligence and a strong bargaining position." Brooks looked at Fleet Commander Pierce. "Your assessment?" "It's risky," Pierce admitted, "but Admiral Raine might be able to pull it off. She knows the Vorex better than anyone now." "Authorize the attempt," Brooks decided, "but make it clear that protecting our colonists remains the priority." At the Confederation Council, the emergency session had continued for hours. The balance of power was shifting as more species took sides. Representative Carter had been joined by the Free Worlds Alliance members, who brought their own evidence of Vorex aggression. The Vorex ambassador paced the floor, his diplomatic composure cracking. This is a coordinated attack on the Vorex Empire. We will not forget those who stand against us. This is not about standing against the Vorex, Carter replied calmly. This is about standing for the principles the Confederation was founded on. Protection of all member species, transparency, and peace. The Tellarian elder spoke again, his voice carrying weight that silenced the chamber. For too long, we have allowed fear to guide our actions. The humans have shown us that sometimes courage is necessary to preserve peace. Back at Proxima IV, the battle had reached its critical point. The Vorex flagship was surrounded, its shields failing under the combined attack of the Allied ships. Admiral, Daniels reported, the Earth reinforcements have arrived. The Vorex are outnumbered now. Raine made her decision. Open a channel to the Vorex flagship. When the connection was established, Raine looked directly at the Vorex commander on the screen. This is Admiral Raine of Earth. Your position is untenable. Surrender your vessel and cease all attacks on Proxima IV. The Vorex commander hissed. Humans have no authority to make demands. Look at your tactical display, Raine replied evenly. You're surrounded by ships from 7 different species. This isn't just about humans anymore. The Confederation is finally standing together. For a long moment, the Vorex commander stared at Raine with hatred in his eyes. Then, without warning, he cut the transmission. They're powering up their main weapons, Garcia warned. Maximum energy readings. All ships, evasive maneuvers, Raine ordered. The Vorex flagship unleashed a massive energy pulse in all directions, damaging several of the surrounding ships. As the Allies regrouped, the Vorex vessel made a desperate push toward the colony below. They're making a suicide run for the colony, Daniels shouted. Without hesitation, Admiral Raine gave the order that would become legendary throughout the Confederation. Intercept course. Full speed. Get between that ship and the colony. The Defiant surged forward, engines at maximum. It was going to be close. Very close. 3 months after the Battle of Proxima IV, Admiral Raine stood by a large window in the Confederation Council headquarters on Axiom. She looked out at the stars, remembering that desperate moment when the Defiant had raced to intercept the Vorex flagship. The Defiant had taken severe damage that day. Over 30 crew members had been lost. But they had succeeded. The colony had been saved, and the Vorex flagship had been disabled before it could complete its suicide run. That victory had turned the tide of the brief but intense war. Admiral Raine, a voice called from behind her. She turned to see Representative Carter approaching with the Tellarian elder. The special session is about to begin, Carter said. Raine nodded and followed them into the Grand Council chamber. It was filled beyond capacity. Representatives from all Confederation species were present, along with military leaders and diplomats. At the center of the chamber stood President Brooks, who had traveled from Earth for this historic occasion. When Raine entered, Brooks smiled and gestured for her to join the Earth delegation. The head of the council, a Canapan with silver skin, called the session to order. We gather today to formalize the end of hostilities with the Vorex Empire and to acknowledge the events that have changed our Confederation forever. A new Vorex representative approached the speaking platform. The old ambassador had been removed after evidence of his role in the attacks came to light. On behalf of the reformed Vorex government, the new representative said, I officially sign the peace treaty and offer our sincere apologies for the actions of our previous leadership. He pressed his hand to the treaty document, making it official. A murmur ran through the chamber. The Canapan chairman spoke again. Now we address the matter that began this conflict. The actions of Admiral Raine at Helios IV. Raine stood straight as all eyes turned to her. Admiral Raine acted without authorization when she engaged Vorex forces attacking an Etherian colony, the chairman continued. At the time, this was seen as a violation of protocol. Raine prepared herself for formal censure. She had known from the beginning that saving lives might cost her career. However, the chairman said, in light of subsequent events and evidence, this council now recognizes that Admiral Raine's actions, while unconventional, were ultimately in keeping with the highest principles of the Confederation, the protection of innocent lives. The chamber was silent as the chairman turned directly to Raine. Admiral Samantha Raine, on behalf of the Confederation Council, I extend our formal apology for failing to act when action was needed. Your courage reminded us of our purpose. Raine had not expected this. She nodded acknowledgement, too surprised for words. President Brooks stepped forward. The people of Earth are proud of Admiral Raine. She showed us that sometimes doing what is right requires great personal risk. Because of her, the Confederation is stronger today than ever before. After the formal proceedings, a celebration began. Representatives from many worlds approached Raine to express their gratitude. The Etherian delegation presented her with a crystal containing light from their home star, their highest honor. Later, Raine found a quiet moment with Fleet Commander Pierce. "So," he said with a small smile, "you're a hero now." "I was just doing my job," she replied. "Your new job might be even harder," Pierce said. "The Council has approved the formation of a rapid response force, ships from multiple species working together to protect Confederation members without waiting for bureaucratic approval. They want you to lead it." Me. Raine was surprised again. "After I broke nearly every protocol in the book." "Perhaps because of that," Pierce suggested. "You've shown that sometimes rules must bend to serve their higher purpose." As they spoke, the Tellarian elder approached them. His ancient eyes held a wisdom that spanned centuries. "Admiral Raine," he said softly, "your actions have changed the Confederation in ways that will echo for generations. Where we once debated while innocents suffered, we now stand ready to protect all our peoples." "I just made a choice I could live with," Raine said simply. "The best leaders often do," the elder replied. "And in doing so, they show others the way." As the celebration continued around them, Raine looked out at the gathering of species from across the galaxy. Former enemies now talked as allies. Smaller races spoke with confidence where once they had been silent. All because she had refused to stand by and watch an injustice. All because she had declared war without permission. And now the Council had apologized.